You had some opportunities there where you guys drove into the red zone and didn't come away with points in that. Thoughts on it?
Yeah, this is the second week in a row where we've, I thought in the second half where we had some opportunities to cut it to a one-possession game and to kind of keep it right there in the hip pocket to give ourselves a chance late in the game. But, our execution, the one that comes to mind is the interception a couple plays before it. From a detail standpoint, we had our outside receiver didn't flatten off the route in the end zone. Our quarterback had a misread. So to me, those are the things where when I talk about our attention to detail, it's going to be really important for our players, especially when you get it down into the red zone area, that we do it exactly how we're coached to do it. And again, this is the second week in a row that our red zone offense didn't help us in terms of finishing with touchdowns.
How about Tua's performance? He still threw for 350 yards or something like that?
I mean, to me, Leah has done that, has continued to execute in between the 20s, but we've got to get everybody inside the 20. Once we get it in the red area, that's where we have to have a really high amount of attention to detail to our execution. So, again, we made plays from the 20 to the 20, but it's going to be really important if you want to win against quality ranked opponents like Michigan State, that when we get it down in there, we got to come away with touchdowns. Our tight ends, both, Corey and Chig have both the last couple of weeks come up big. Obviously with some of the attrition we've had at the receiver position, it's opening up opportunities there. And, we still got some guys like Rakim Jarrett and, Darryl Jones and then Carlos Carrier that have continued to get the, attention. And so it creates some matchups there for our tight ends. And, I like the way Chig is playing at a high level, made a couple of big plays, big catches for us. And we just got to continue to find ways to incorporate them in our system and, finish drives.
It seems like kind of the conversation after a lot of states kind of self-inflicted mistakes. What do you think the team needs to do to kind of get over that hump to be able to stay in these games?
I think it starts with us just growing up and having the attention to the detail part. As coaches, when you call certain plays, and when we come in here after every game and talk about it's the lack of execution, we've got to make sure that everybody in there understands exactly what their job is. I mean, it's a pretty simple game. Every player has a job to do on each specific play, and they've got to do it at a really high level. And again, like I said, our margin for error is very slim, and especially playing a lot of young players that haven't been put in these situations. Kobe McDonald today had opportunities where, to make a few plays, and then he hurt us in the protection game. Well, those are things that, again, we've got to have him coached up. Who's ever in there, we've got to make sure they understand that it's really important that you do your job and you do it at a high level.
What do you feel like games like this?
For us, I mean, every game, whether it's win or loss, there are some teaching that goes along with it. For us as a young team that's playing a lot of young players, I think just being in this experience, we call it building a toolbox. And again, when you play teams like we've had to play the last few weeks, obviously teams that are ranked, it gives our players the experience of knowing when I get put in this situation, this is how I've got to respond. This is how I've got to execute it. And again, the effort part for our team is there. Again, and they're going to get our best effort as coaches when we come back in there Monday. We've got an opportunity this weekend back at home for the last time for our seniors to find a way to get to the number 6 to get us to become where we can be bowl eligible and continue to build on what this senior class has kind of done for us the last couple of years.
I think since you guys are going to be ready for a balanced offense in the pass game, what would you like to see out of your secondary that, at least from watching in real time, that you didn't?
Well, I think the disappointing thing was, early in the game when we committed to playing man coverage, we knew that they were going to run the ball and they were going to take shots. And so, for instance, the flea flicker. All right, when you're in man coverage and they run a flea flicker, the receiver being that wide open shouldn't happen because of eye discipline of saying, that's my man. And so when you see a guy come open and you're playing man coverage, you immediately know that somebody got nosy, somebody tried to do too much instead of just locked in on your guy. And so we had the right kind of call. But when I talk about our execution, that's another example of, double moves and flea flickers and those things are terrible against man coverage if you guard your man. And so that's where we've got to make sure the players we have in the game understand their job responsibility and we get it accomplished.
It seems like in the first half, you guys had Kenneth Walker pretty much under control for the most part, and then in the second half, we went off. What do you think of Kenneth Walker?
I think he's as advertised. I mean, he's a guy that, makes guys miss. I mean, we tracked it going into this game that he had 1,300 yards rushing and 900 of it came from yards after contact. So it's not a surprise that, one guy has a tough time getting him down. He has great contact balance, runs with good power, does a really good job of finishing. But, I thought in the first half we had more guys running to the football. When we talk about, bringing a bunch of guys to the party in the second half, as we started trying to blitz and get the ball back for our offense, a couple of times they were able to bounce the ball. We lost leverage defensively, and, a good back's going to make you pay when you do that.
And how about the defense's ability to force turnovers, get interceptions, fumbles, that encouraging sign for the defense?
Yeah, it was. It's the first time we've had turnovers, I think, in 5 straight games. And, for us, you give yourself a chance to win when you win the turnover battle and when you win the explosive play battle. And so it'll be interesting to watch the tape, how many explosive plays they had, how many we had. From a turnover standpoint, I was glad to see our defense finally get their hands on some footballs. And, we played with the type of effort, but like I said, just not as clean and not as detailed as it needs to be.